What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another special edition of Blazers Uprise Live here on Free Agency Eve. NBA free agency starts tomorrow, but this stream is not about who the Blazers could get. This stream is about who the Blazers got rid of. As Shams Charania, in the past hour or so, broke the news that Deandre Ayton is receiving a buyout from the Portland Trail Blazers, and he will become a free agent. And this wasn't really something that I was expecting, but it does make sense given that the Blazers drafted centers in back-to-back drafts. Eric Brandt will join us shortly. I'd love to get his thoughts on what this means under the CBA and cap implications and all that stuff, but I'll do my best to summarize where this leaves the Portland Trail Blazers heading into free agency tomorrow, as well as where this leaves the Blazers roster going into next season. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you tune in for the free agency live stream tomorrow, going live between 2 and 3 p.m. Free agency starts at 3 p.m. Pacific time, so make sure you tap in to the channel. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button on all our streams. It's the easiest way to support the platform. And I am super excited to break down what this means for your Portland Trail Blazers. Now, before I get into things, I do want to do a chat poll. And what I'm going to ask you guys is how you feel about buying out Deandre Ayton. All right. We got 4 options. We got great, good, meh, and bad/mad/sad. You can vote on what you feel about this move. And while you vote, I will give my thoughts. Matt Cardle says, now I know how Eric feels about losing Simons. Well, the Blazers didn't lose Simons. They got a piece back for Anthony Simons. And with the Colin Sexton trade today, where Colin Sexton and a second-round pick were traded to the Charlotte Hornets for Jusuf Nurkic straight up, basically implying that Colin Sexton might have been a negative asset going into the final year of his deal, I think that says something about Anthony Simons' potential trade market and how the rest of the league feels about small, score-first combo guards that don't really play much defense. Colin Sexton is probably a better defender than Anthony Simons. So the Blazers getting back Drew Holiday, I think that trade looks a little bit better now after seeing what happened with Colin Sexton today getting traded to the Charlotte Hornets. Let's talk about this Deandre Ayton buyout. Right now we got 226 votes on the poll. 37% of you, 38% of you say you feel great, 27% say you feel good, 26% say meh, and 10% feel bad about this move. So we got some positivity in the chat. I love it. So I think the only way you could react negatively to this move is if you think Deandre Ayton was a big part of the Blazers' future, or if you think the Blazers could have legitimately gotten something back for Deandre Ayton on the trade market. But if the Blazers could have gotten something back for him, they would not have bought him out. I feel like it was common knowledge Deandre Ayton had absolutely zero trade value, and the Blazers were not going to get back a first-round pick or anything on the market for him. Also, if they traded Deandre Ayton, they were likely going to have to take back multiple salaries, taking up multiple roster spots, and then potentially try and buy those players out. I know the Los Angeles Lakers were a team that was talked about as a Deandre Ayton option given their need for a center, but a lot of trade packages had the Blazers taking back Jared Vanderbilt's contract, which has multiple years left on it, and he has been extremely injury-prone. That is a negative contract, and there would be no point for the Blazers taking back that salary compared to just buying out Deandre Ayton. I also floated out a trade idea out there today with Deandre Ayton heading to the Charlotte Hornets, considering they traded Mark Williams, considering they just traded Jusuf Nurkic. Their only centers on the roster are Moussa Diabate, who was underrated last season, as well as the recent 34th overall pick, Ryan Kalkbrenner out of Creighton. I thought Deandre Ayton might be a Hornets type of player, but in any trade package coming back, the Blazers were going to have to take on either Miles Bridges, and that's just a big hell no from me for obvious reasons. If you don't know those reasons, just look up Miles Bridges. And then the other options in terms of returning salary would be to take back both Grant Williams and Josh Green, who have 2 years left on their contracts at $13 million apiece. I think both of those contracts are not good contracts to take back. So maybe the Blazers could have gotten a first-round pick with Deandre Ayton for taking back those salaries. But those were the types of trades that could have potentially been out there. The Blazers were not going to get any sort of asset for Deandre Ayton unless they took back some questionable salary, and then basically at that point they're just taking on salary with an asset. They're not really getting one for Deandre Ayton, if you get what I mean. Ayton had absolutely zero value on the open market. He was overpaid. He was hard to match. I don't think teams want to have him as a backup center if they have a better center than him, considering I just don't think Deandre Ayton would handle that all too well. And maybe that has something to go into this buyout. Maybe the Blazers wanted to start Donovan Clingan next year, given that they were 5 points better per 100 possessions on the defensive end with Clingan on the floor compared to Ayton. The Blazers were a better team per 100 possessions with Clingan on the floor compared to Ayton. Now, there's noise that goes into that stat, so take it with a grain of salt, but maybe the Blazers didn't want DeAndre Ayton problems if he was coming off the bench, and maybe DeAndre Ayton still, views himself as a starter, and maybe that's why both parties came to an agreement on the buyout. I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing some more context as to what went into this buyout. It's going to be extremely interesting to hear what Joe Cronin has to say about this move when he's interviewed next, probably after the moratorium is over and they complete the Jrue Holiday trade officially. But at the end of the day, this was essentially, I think, an addition by subtraction move for your Portland Trailblazers. That's truly what I believe. I've been on board all offseason that I think Donovan Clingan should start next year, and that has been an interesting debate in Blazers circles amongst Blazer fans, because there's one group that doesn't really like Ayton, doesn't really like the problems that he brings, and wanted Donovan Clingan to start next year. I'm in that group. There's the other group that doesn't think Donovan Clingan is capable of playing 30 minutes a game, even though he did it multiple times last year and played pretty well in a lot of those games, and think he can't start. Now, the Blazers, and still having Robert Williams on the roster, yes, he's injury prone, but he can complement Clingan and play some minutes, and if he gets hurt, you have Young Hansen behind him. You have Young Hansen, who the Blazers took 16th overall, and I think this type of move is also a vote of confidence towards Young Hansen, but also with Young Hansen knowing Duop Reith the past couple of years. He talked about it in his introductory press conference. Maybe the Blazers want to keep Duop Reith on the team to help Young Hansen transition to the NBA. He's coming from China, so it's not just like a college prospect that's lived in the USA and that's now making their, start in the NBA. Young Hansen is coming from overseas. That transition for guys like that is a little bit harder. Maybe the Blazers want to keep Duop Reith around. At that point, it still gives you 4 centers on this roster. The Blazers essentially cut it down from 5 to 4 today. I don't know if they'll keep Duop Reith, but you could make the argument that he would be good to have on this team as an insurance option, given Robert Williams III and his injury problems that he's dealt with the past few seasons, as well as the scenario that Young Hansen might not be ready to play right away. But ultimately, I do think this is a good move from the Portland Trailblazers. A small part of me is going to miss ranting about DeAndre Ayton. If you guys have watched post-game shows the past couple of years, you'll know he drove me crazy. I don't think he was the type of player to help this team win games. I think maybe in the right situation, he could help a team win a couple of basketball games this season, but I think on this Blazer team, he didn't really fit their effort and hustle and defensive identity. The Blazers, with him in the lineup, really struggle to protect the rim. And although he is mobile, he doesn't defend the perimeter well. He doesn't contest shots well. Oftentimes, he doesn't even get a hand up. In the start of both his seasons as a Portland Trailblazer, I thought his effort was the poorest of anyone's on the team. I thought there's just so many examples of him jogging back defensively while the opposing offense sprints up the floor and gets fast break buckets. And then he's not really somebody that boxes out, not really somebody that does the little things, and that became frustrating for me. And when you look at him offensively, he wasn't a center that could knock down threes. He wasn't a center that could put the ball on the floor. He wasn't a center that could create for others or pass or do any of that sort of stuff. He wasn't even that good of a low post center considering he never got to the rim. He had one of the lowest free throw rates the past couple of years from a 7-footer that I've ever seen, which is insane because, you know, if he was sitting out behind the three-point arc all the time, then I'd understand him not shooting a lot of free throws, but he's not that type of player. He rarely got to the free throw line. He shot a lot of mid-range jumpers. I just think he's kind of a flawed overall player that maybe with a great pick-and-roll guard that throws a perfect lob, he can feast off of, and we saw Ayton and Scoot Henderson develop some chemistry there. But ultimately, I've been on the record saying that I think Donovan Clingan is going to be a better center next year than Deandre Ayton because he does the things that help you win basketball games, and it's a bunch of little stuff that people underappreciate. He sets really, really good screens that gives guards more space off the pick and roll. He rolls hard to the rim instead of stopping 15 feet short because he wants to receive a pocket pass for a mid-range jumper. Okay, he tries to finish strong around the rim. He needs to get better when he can't dunk, but he does finish pretty strongly around the rim. He's a bigger presence. And I think the Blazers will tap into his playmaking a little bit more, his passing a little bit more that he showed at UConn running what was a pro-style offense under Danny Hurley. I'm really looking forward to Clingan next year. This means Clingan will probably start. I don't see the Blazers starting Robert Williams ahead of him. This is a vote of confidence for both Donovan Clingan and Young Hansen going forward. I think the long-term starting center is going to come down to those two guys. And I think the Blazers trying to be a good team next year, it just feels like they are shedding their dead defensive weight. It really does. Anthony Simons gets traded for Drew Holiday. Deandre Ayton just gets simply bought out, and they're replacing him in the starting lineup with a much better defensive center and a much better rim protector. The Blazers, it seems like they don't want anybody in this rotation that can't play some defense. Now, all eyes will be on Shaedon Sharpe going into next year, but with his offensive ability and upside and athletic traits and all that, if there's one guy in the rotation that maybe struggles defensively, it should be him. It shouldn't be Deandre Ayton. It shouldn't be Anthony Simons. And hopefully Shaedon Sharpe can become a solid defender. It's still early for him. He still has time to develop defensively. And I think more than anything, it's just a commitment to that end for him. And I think having a bunch of guys that get after it defensively around Shaedon Sharpe is only going to help him lock in on that end and show him what he needs to do on the defensive side of the ball. I think Drew Holiday will be a good mentor for him. And I think Deandre Ayton just did not contribute to that identity for this team. So the Blazers just simply buy him out. Really, really fascinating move here from Portland, and I love the move. Ayton drove me crazy. You guys know this. Ayton drove me absolutely crazy. But sometimes there is that element of addition by subtraction. You get rid of a player that could be a problem, that doesn't contribute in a number of areas, and instead you prioritize the second-year big man who you drafted 7th overall, who's an elite rim protector. If the Blazers are going to make the playoffs next year, they have to be probably a borderline top 5 defense. They were not going to be a borderline top 5 defense with Deandre Ayton starting at the center spot. They just weren't. Especially if you have Shaedon Sharpe in the starting lineup as well. I think they have that upside with Donovan Clingan as the starting center. I think Clingan could be a top 5 rim protector next season. And if the Blazers want to be a playoff team, they're going to have to make their mark on the defensive end. Because offensively, they're still probably going to have some problems. So they need to lock teams up Starting Donovan Clingan is better for that than Deandre Ayton. So this is a win. This is a good move. And I have no problems with this move because I never expected the Blazers to be able to trade Deandre Ayton for Dalton Connect or for a first-round pick and expiring contracts from another team. I had given up on that basically ever since the Blazers got Deandre Ayton. He's just not the type of center that I think most teams are looking for. He doesn't really bring winning traits, and his effort is just way too inconsistent. It's just way too inconsistent. You can't really rely on Deandre Ayton on a night in, night out basis. And the Blazers decided tonight that they are going to stop relying on him on a night in, night out basis, that they're going to rely on Donovan Clingan, and I am here for it. I'll thank the donos in the member messages in a second. Appreciate you guys. Let's take a look at the results of the chat poll, though. 592 votes. 39% say they feel great about the Blazers buying out Deandre Ayton. 26% say good. 24% say meh. And 11% don't feel good about it. Leave your thoughts in the chat. I'll try and read off some chat comments here. Shout out to Woody Woo with a 30. I don't know the currency. NT $30. Says prediction stats for Young Handsome. Young Handsome. I don't know, because I was going under the impression that he was not going to play much next year. I kind of still expected Deandre Ayton to return. But after this news, he's probably going to get some burn, especially if Robert Williams gets hurt. So don't really know what to predict stat-wise, because it still kind of depends on the rest of the roster. Like, if they trade Robert Williams, they might make him the backup center going into next year. That would be interesting to have a Clingan, Young Hansen rotation next year. But yeah, thank you for the donation. Shout out to Tyler Smith, $5 donation, says, we don't have a single player in our starting lineup that can't play defense. Top 4 defense, here we come. Well, hopefully that's true, because that kind of comes down to if Shaedon Sharpe can be a positive contributor on the defensive end. I have hope that he can be. And here's the thing. If you got a bunch of guys that can defend, the guys that don't really start to stick out. That's the thing. When you have multiple guys that don't play defense in your rotation, it's kind of the status quo. But if you got 8 of your 9 rotation players that really get after it and defend, and there's one guy that's slacking off or not getting after it on that end, it really, really sticks out. It really, really sticks out. Thank you, Tyler, for the donation. I'm really looking forward to this Blazer defense next season. It should be a lot of fun. And with that said, we got Eric Brandt on the stream. Let me fix the webcams here. What's going on, Eric? How are you doing tonight? And how are you feeling? You're smiling. How are you feeling about this news?
It's very surprising to see. You could never take anything at full value for what the team says. Just 2 days ago, Chauncey was talking about Deandre Ayton in the rotation and how Young's going to have a tough time filling that out. But if he ends up playing, he had confidence in him if he got minutes. And a couple weeks ago, we hear that he's penciled in as a starter already. Yeah. So why even make those comments? I hate that crap. But yeah, I mean, I'm really torn on this, Tori.
You're torn?
Yes. I saw your tweet before I actually saw the Shams post.
Oh, so you saw that I said Cronin is cooking in all caps?
Yeah, so and I was like, so hear me out, chat. Okay. So one, let's go through the positives, okay? I agree with you. I'm kind of glad DeAndre Ayton is off the roster. I did want the Blazers to move on from him. Much like you with Simons, I was hoping they didn't do something stupid like sign him to an extension or anything like that. And he was seemingly, in a lot of people's eyes, part of the reason why we did well at times last year. So I didn't want that to be a thing this season. So yes, I'm glad that they moved on from him. I will, however, list the things that I'm once again like troubled about, and that's that Joe Cronin is an absolute disaster when it comes to cap management and having to eat a $34 million contract without being able to trade him or anything like that. Like, it just goes to show you why we didn't want that contract on this team for a rebuilding team and to begin with. This is why we didn't want those kind of contracts on this roster while it was rebuilding, and so we could have had room to take on contracts and stuff like that. But I get that you know, it kind of makes sense now. Now I'm a little bit better about the Young pick because now he has a chance to actually get minutes, and that's cool. But the fact that that Portland had to just eat Deandre Ayton's contract and can't, like, he was that much of a problem that you can't have him on the roster. So it kind of sucks. I always hate when you have that much dead money that you can't trade, even if because like at the deadline he's an expiring contract, right? It's not, no one's trading for Deandre Ayton, but like he might have had value at the deadline in that regard.
So I wonder what the total money amount was for the buyout, and Blazers maybe save like $1 million, $2 million. I don't know. Like, and then there's some set off that's like a minuscule amount that gets taken away depending on like if he signs a 1-year contract or not. Yeah. So like I wonder if this is freeing up a little bit more mid-level exception money. But also I didn't want to have to put up with Deandre Ayton being the starting center next year over a younger player who I think is better than him, just to hopefully have Cronin pull off a good trade with his contract at the deadline. Like, I just think that invited too many problems, and I didn't really trust that they would have a trade at the deadline that would make sense with that money. They still have Matisse Thybulle and Robert Williams that adds up to like $26 million in expiring money, and we'll see what they do with Jeremy Grant and what contracts they get back there. So yeah, I don't know. Like, and if they sign a guy to an MLE, that's a little bit more salary that you can account for. I don't really expect the Blazers to trade for like a $40 to $50 million player at the deadline. And I don't think it's the right time. That's why it's like, I get it, but also it's not really an issue to me.
Yeah. But what if they're in the middle of a playoff chase and they have a player they could acquire to help them make the playoffs using DeAndre Ayton's expiring contract, and now they don't have that option? I think you gotta set things up with, you got Matisse Thybulle and Rob Williams as $26 million. You can sign an MLE guy. You can add a couple minimums. Like, you can scrounge up enough money depending on what they do the rest of the offseason. I wish they'd open up a full mid-level exception and go after somebody, because like if you could add Rob Will plus Thybulle plus whoever you sign to a full MLE, that's $40 million of outgoing salary. Now, you have to worry about the Blazers going into the tax if they're taking back, 49 million, but I just think like they even with this move can find a way to set up their books to be able to trade for a high salary player at the deadline, and this is where I think Cronin has to cook a little bit. The Blazers still don't have enough space under the luxury tax to use their full mid-level exception and stay out of the tax, and I don't think they're going into the luxury tax. So we'll have to wait and see like kind of what that looks like. But also something that I wonder with this, Eric,
something that I wonder with this, I would normally not advocate, and I'm not really advocating for this, but they could stretch DeAndre Ayton's salary over 3 years. It would be like almost $12 million of dead money for the next 3 years.
Ugh.
And you could run into problems, but I almost wonder if it's like, okay, we can't trade Grant. We're stuck with Grant. He's on a 3-year deal. We trade for Drew Holiday. He's on a big 3-year deal. We're not going to have cap space in the next 3 years. So maybe they stretch him knowing they're not going to have cap space. It's just like, can you handle the extensions coming down the line with that much dead money on the books, plus the Holiday contract, plus the Grant contract?
Yeah, I'd rather just eat that contract this year and be done with it.
But hypothetically, that would open a full mid-level exception and a biannual exception for the Blazers.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
And then they could take on money in a trade and still stay. Then they could take on money in a trade and still stay out of the tax at the deadline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just for the record, for everyone questioning this, so the Blazers, when you buy someone out or cut them or waive and stretch them or however they end up doing it, the time to like right now when they agree to the buyout, they have to pay him his full salary or whatever they agreed upon. Maybe he agreed to take $35 million instead of $37 or whatever. They have to write him a check for $35 million, and he gets that money. So he can sign cheap with any team. It's not like he has to make up that money in free agency or something like that. He can sign for a minimum if he wants to because the Blazers are paid him for the season. That's what's happening. And before I came on, I have to address this once again. I'm so sick of this crap. So someone in chat said that, what are we going to do now? Donovan Clingan can't play more than 20 minutes a game. Can we please stop that myth? The last 21 games of the season, he started most of them, and he averaged like almost 26, 27 minutes a game. Yeah. And he was fine.
Yeah.
And that was with foul trouble, with all that kind of stuff. He is fine playing more than 20 minutes a game. Yeah. This myth that he can't play more than 20 minutes a game is not true. It's simply false.
Yeah, and I can provide the exact stats over those 21 games. This is games in March and April. Clingan played 26.1 minutes per game. All right. He got almost 2 blocks per game, 10 boards, 8 points, shot 51% from the field. He shot 27% from 3. He shot 56% from 2. I think if you have him playing 26, 28 minutes a game, that he's perfectly fine and perfectly capable of playing that.
His best games, he played like his most minutes, Like it wasn't like he was good for spurts or something. He was actually good in games he played a lot of time.
But also it's like he's going to be working on his conditioning this offseason. He talked about it in his exit interview. He's going to be working on that. The Blazers are going to be prepping him for this. But also it's like, how do you get used to playing 30 minutes a game if you don't play 30 minutes a game? Like, yeah, there is a cardio element to it, but it's like, all right, you need 1 to 2 centers behind him that if he gets in foul trouble or maybe just is kind of gassed for a game or whatever, you got guys to turn to, right? Like, you should give him the opportunity to see if he can play 30 minutes a game. And if he can't, have a fallback option. Have a Robert Williams. You drafted Young Hansen at 16 overall and are super high on him. He can get a few minutes, and if they keep Duop Reith, you can give him a few minutes, right? Like, you could even go with some small ball lineups in some situations with, like, Avdia at the 5. If you keep Grant, it might make sense to actually do that a little bit if Grant's playing minutes off the bench. Like Kamara at the 3, Grant at the 4, Denny at the 5. The positions are interchangeable, right? But that could be an option. So it's not really something where it's like, we had to have DeAndre Ayton because Clingan can only play 20 minutes a game. If you just look at April, Clingan played 28 minutes per game, averaged 10 points, 12 boards, 2.5 assists, 1.7 blocks, shot 60% from two. Like, he was really kind of figuring things out at the end of the season and doing a better job playing heavier minutes, and I only expect that to continue to improve over the offseason. I only expect him to continue to get in better shape, to train for this. So, yeah, I am ready to see how many minutes Donovan Clingan can play. I'm tired of the myth that he can't play more than 20 minutes, or like it's impossible for him to play 30 minutes. Over March and April, he had 5 games that he played over 30 minutes in. And I'll see if I can get like the specific stats. I don't think I can get the specific stats, but like one of the games was at Golden State on March 10th. He had 15 points, 9 boards, 6 assists, 4 blocks, was 6 for 9 from the field, hit a 3, right? Like, that was a great game. That was a great game.
How many minutes?
31, almost 32 minutes. 31 minutes, 53 seconds.
He didn't die?
He didn't die. The next 2 games after that, he played almost 34 minutes, then 30 minutes, and, like, the scoring wasn't really there, but he blocked 3 shots in both those games. He got 12 and 14 boards respectively. That was the overtime loss to the Knicks that Mikal Bridges hit that buzzer beater, and that was a win against Toronto, a 3-point win against Toronto. So it's like, here's the thing, is you can't base Donovan Clingan having good or bad games or being productive off how many points he scores. Like, if he's still rebounding and keeping teams off the glass, if he's still protecting the rim and blocking shots and, like, not getting absolutely cooked when he maybe has to switch out onto the perimeter or defend away from the rim, then if he can play 30 minutes doing that, that's fine. That's his strengths. That's what he does. And then you hope that, okay, he continues to develop his finishing around the rim. I don't think that's going to, like, suffer by playing more minutes. He either can figure out how to finish or he'll continue to struggle. I think, touch shot, or, like, the touch on his floaters, his little push shots from, like, 5 to 8 feet out is something he needs to develop, because that could really punish teams. And then just keep rolling hard and being an option on the pick and roll, even if he doesn't get the ball. Like, he can have some gravity as a roll man. So, I am tired of that myth. Like, I think Clingan's ready to play at least 26, 28 minutes a game, and I'd give him 30 next year and see if he can handle it, and we'll see what happens. I'd rather do that and have him, like, struggle than just to continue to baby him and say, no, we need to put up with Deandre Ayton playing a ton of minutes because we don't know how many Clingan can play, so we're only going to play Clingan 18 minutes. That is a worse option.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I gotta address this as well. So we all know, yeah, no, I think it's relevant.
Okay.
Wait, why can't I click on his comment? I want to read it.
While you look for it, shout out to Connor with a $20 donation. Says, I can low-key respect Cronin for trying to build a team with a defensive vision. Hopefully Chauncey and the players can turn it into a good season. Thank you, Connor, for the $20 donation. Yeah, like, Cronin's committing to an identity. Like, this is the most Cronin has committed to a particular direction ever. It's not like he got value for Deandre Ayton. It's not like the Ant trade wasn't questionable with Drew Holiday's contract and then the Young Hansen pick. He was a protected second rounder, right? Like, it hasn't necessarily been a good offseason in terms of, like, the value of the moves they've made, but I think it's been a good offseason in the direction the team is going and the identity they're trying to build.
Yeah.
You find the comment you want to reference?
I'm trying to go to the specific person's comments because it's up a ways now.
Just summarize it, if you have to.
I'll move on to a different point and come back to this one. Anyways, so one thing I'm kind of hearing might be at play here, Tori.
What's that?
A Jeremy Grant trade to the Lakers, and we did this as a favor to them for taking on Jeremy Grant because we couldn't trade them both. but this is a way of them getting both in the trade without having to send his contract out.
That is actually fascinating.
If it is, I'll give Cronin credit. That would be a good move, right?
That would be the biggest brain move he's ever made. Yes.
Yes. So, and who knows? It might have been because Luka and Deandre Ayton have the same agent. So,
yeah,
it would make sense that his agent is trying to get Ayton. That would be by far Ayton's best landing spot right now. I mean, you could say the Hornets, but like if Ayton makes it onto the Lakers out of this, that's by far what's best for his career moving forward. If he can't have a good season with Luka passing him the ball and throwing him lobs, then he's not going to get a big contract anyway. So that would be best for him, right? So the Blazers, knowing the Lakers have to take on this contract, but the Lakers not really wanting to do the trade as is, can get a little extra value by us waiving Ayton with his agent already knowing that he's talked to the Lakers behind the scenes about that. And so I think that is a possibility. And so if that's part of the process with this, I mean, they can never admit that was the reason they cut him.
Yeah.
But it does seem kind of weird that they cut him before. Like, what if the Lakers strike out in free agency or the Hornets don't get a center or something, and then they get desperate and would have traded for Aiden? You would have known that week or like a day before the free agency starts, right? So if they pull that off, that would be very interesting. And if they do, Rui almost has to be in that trade, right? And so my thought was, now any trade we trade Jeremy Grant in, we need a backup forward at least back in the trade because, like, what are we going to do? Play Chris Murray as our backup forward? I don't want that, right? So getting Rui back, I think he would fit in well with our system here, and I think he would be a little better than Jeremy was last year. Plays a little bit more within the flow of the offense. So I don't want to get my hopes up in case that's not true, but that's just putting it out there that's kind of the buzz I was hearing after this happened.
It makes sense. It makes sense. It's funny how we went into this offseason like, man, are they going to get rid of any of Simons, Ayton, or Grant? And they've already gotten rid of 2 of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Ayton plus Jeremy would have been $67 million, right? The Lakers are unable to do that. But, like, if basically we're making this trade, but instead of trading Ayton to the Lakers, we're just buying him out, and they can sign him, I assume, like, tomorrow, then you could see maybe the teams would wait to, like, try not to make it obvious, but you could see, like, a Grant trade tomorrow night. I think the Lakers would wait to, like, be able to fully guarantee that Ayton is coming over for what would probably just be a minimum contract. And, maybe it's an Emily. I don't really know, like, what it would be. But that would be a really creative way for Cronin to save his ass and get rid of the Jeremy Grant contract. And if you could get back Rui plus Kleba, they save like $3 million. Dorian Finney-Smith opted out of his player option. That's also what makes this maybe a little bit more easier to pull off, Eric.
Yeah.
So, exactly. Like, let's assume the Blazers on this buyout maybe save a couple of million, right? They were like $7.5 million below the tax. The full mid-level exception is $14 million. So let's say they get to like $9.5 million below the tax, and then they trade Grant for Kleba and Rui. Right? Both are expiring contracts. and the Blazers would save almost $3 million. So that gets them to like $12.5 million. Now, what they could do after that is like waive and stretch Kleba, and that'd be like a little under $4 million per year for the next 3 years, which like isn't great, but you would save $7 more million. So then Portland would easily be able to use the full mid-level exception and stay out of the luxury tax. So at the end of the day, it'd basically be you're buying out Ayton, taking on his dead money for a single year. It's off the books next offseason, and you're getting rid of Grant, and you're getting back Rui, and maybe a little bit of dead money in the next 3 years, and the ability to sign somebody to a full mid-level exception. Like, let's say it's a Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I mean, that is... I like that. I like that, and the Blazers get off the Grant contract. They don't have to worry about that. Maybe they're able to trade Drew for something. They could still have a ton of flexibility going forward, but also that team, that bench with, one of the 3 guards. Maybe it's even Drew with the way the Blazers seem to be wanting to commit to this young 5-man core finally. Maybe it's like Drew, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Rui off the bench with Robert Williams. That's a pretty dang good bench, Eric. So, and then at the deadline, you would have the MLE, whoever you sign to the MLE. You'd have Robert Williams. You'd have Matisse Thybulle. That'd be about $40 million in tradable salary if you have the option to go after a splash. And mind you, they got another first-round pick. They got the unprotected 2028 Orlando first. So they added a first-round pick to maybe put a package together where they could go after a star if they become available, and if not, it's completely fine. So this could be the plan, and I would have to give Joe Cronin a lot of credit if that is the plan, because that is more of a like detailed plan than I've like ever seen him put together. I would be really impressed. I think it would be a good sign if this is like Cronin's master plan. I'm all for it. So we can only hope. I'm hoping what you shared is true, and that the Ayton buyout was a favor to the Lakers, and that they're gonna take on Grant. I got my fingers crossed for that.
Yeah. To be clear, it was not something Cronin came up with. But you got to give him credit if he pulls it off. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is like, how do you come up with that plan as the GM of the Blazers, I guess? Like, that's not really something you can come up with. Yeah. It kind of has to be initiated by the agent, I would assume.
Well, the Lakers do want both of them.
Yeah.
But, like, obviously, like we talked about, they can't trade for both of them.
Yeah.
And to be clear, too, because I see this, and it's a good point. Like, why would the Lakers trade Rui for Jeremy? Rui's a better player or whatever. Not in LeBron's eyes. So, just say that. Not in LeBron's eyes. And we saw him complaining once again today about the roster through his agent and all that stuff. Opts into his contract. Yeah.
I love it. I would love to be able to go into tomorrow thinking about like full mid-level exception targets. So, well, I guess we can discuss that right now if it could. I mean, it could be an option. So let me just search. Let me bring up some names. I got an article, 8 MLE targets for the Clippers in free agency. Guards, we can scratch off. So wings, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, we just talked about him. 3-and-D wing, we bring him back to Portland. We just brought Drew back to Portland. 2 guys who had detours through here and never played a game and got traded, got flipped. But also, I mean, I don't know if this is possible given potential issues with when we tried to negotiate with him before, but Bruce Brown, if you're going all in on defense, I like Nickeil Alexander-Walker better because he's a better three-point shooter, and I feel like the Blazers need a 3-and-D backup three, and Alexander-Walker would be that.
What about Dorian Finney-Smith, who just...
Yeah. Is that like a part of this this whole favor for a favor, and then...
I didn't hear that part of it, but... I mean, he opted out of $15 million. The thought is he's going to sign a full mid-level somewhere. So if we did open up the full mid-level, and I don't know, he would definitely fit this roster.
Mm-hmm. Career 36%, three-point shooter. He shot 41% last year on 5 attempts per game. Plays good defense. Yeah, like he is definitely an option as well. That, you know, people didn't think he was going to opt out of that much money. So I also think basically you're just looking for a forward if you're the Blazer. If you got Rui back in this hypothetical, or maybe they keep Grant, you're kind of set on one of the forwards. I think you kind of need like a 2-3. Somebody that can swing between those two positions is what makes the most sense. Now, I wouldn't hate taking a swing on Jake LaRavia. I thought it was crazy how he didn't have his fourth-year option picked up. Because last year, playing for the Grizzlies before he got traded to Sacramento, he was actually pretty good. In Memphis, in 47 games, he played 21 minutes a game, averaged 7 points, 4.5 rebounds, almost 3 assists, and shot 44% from 3. This is a 6'8" forward that can play the 3 or the 4. Those numbers on per 36, if you just want to extrapolate it out, 12.5 points, 7.5 rebounds, 5 assists, 44% from 3. He's a career 37% three-point shooter. So the Blazers have a shooting need off the bench, and if they want to be competitive next year, they absolutely have to fill that need. And I think this could be a way of doing so. Now, Rui last year, for just added context here, he shot 41% from 3. So Finney-Smith, 41%, Rui, 41%. Now, these guys are playing off of LeBron and later in the season, Luka. So that definitely probably helped their three-point percentage because they were getting a lot of open threes. But the Blazers got some guys that can create. They need some spacing. And actually, I take that back. In the 20 games with Brooklyn, DFS shot 43% from 3. Eric, what are the odds we have a hyphenated name on the roster in a couple of days? That's the real question.
I'm going to say 0.
0? What? Alexander Walker, Finney-Smith? You think there's a 0% chance?
Yeah, I think Finney-Smith is going to go somewhere else, and I think after the Malik Beasley news today, the Pistons are going to put the full court press on Nickeil Alexander-Walker and get him.
Yeah, the Blazers could go after Karis LeVert, but he's a little bit too ball dominant for my liking, and I mean he's a career 34% three-point shooter. He shot 37% last year, but he's not like the type of shooter I'd want in that role.
Your guy Luke Kennard.
Yeah, he's just too much of a guard for me.
Yeah. Duncan Robinson is a guard too, but he's could be available.
Yeah, Duncan Robinson. I just like Alexander Walker because of the defense, you know. So the Pistons, I don't believe they have a...
He's a guard too, though. Let's be fair.
He can play the 2 or the 3.
I mean, he can play the 3, but he's kind of undersized.
Yeah, but he's like competitive, like as a defender, where Kennard really is not that competitive. Chat, if you have any other mid-level exception targets, leave them in the chat. Shout out to Woody Woo. 30 NT donation says, got one 3-and-D guy you'll definitely love. GP2 Weeks, who is reportedly not returning to the Golden State Warriors. Bro, if we finally got rid of Ayton just to replace him with bringing GP2 Weeks back, man, that would be so disgusting. Thank you for donating and leaving that message. It's better than if you just left that message in chat because I hate it. It's funny.
That's funny.
But like the Blazers
I
laugh. What's that?
I laugh.
Yeah. So the Blazers don't need a guard. The Blazers don't need a center. They don't really need a 4. If they keep Jeremy Grant, or maybe they do pull off what you were suggesting, get Rui back. Like, they have Denny, Tamani that can play the 4. They don't really need that. Like, their need is literally just a wing, somebody that can play the 2 or the 3, shoot the ball, and then contribute at least a little bit to the defensive identity the Blazers are trying to build. That would really balance the roster. And then you go forward from there.
NT looks like it might be a Taiwan dollar, by the way.
Taiwan dollar. Thank you.
Correct me if that's wrong. Sorry.
I just love that the Blazers have finally committed to their young 5-person core. I guess a 6-person core with Young Hansen now. But they've finally committed to their young core. They traded Ant for Drew. I know Drew might start over Scoop, but he's just a short-term thing. Long-term, they committed to Scoop by making that move, and they got Ayton out of the way for Donovan Clingan. I'm happy. Ooh, Kisper as a trade option. The Blazers and the Wizards made a trade last offseason.
If we got, any of those pieces back, Kleba, Vincent, Vanderbilt, even Rui maybe. We could reflip any of those players.
Yeah, maybe the Wizards don't really want to pay Kisper his 4-year deal now. I don't know.
The other part of, I forgot to mention this earlier, so the other part of the equation for the Blazers is they'd most likely have to take back 2 or 3 players, and if it's 3, they would have had to cut someone before the trade was valid anyway. So, they wouldn't have had to do it for the trade, I guess, in the offseason. But if they had 16 guaranteed contracts, they'd have to cut someone anyway. So why not just cut Ayton if you don't want him? Would be the thinking if they brought back 3 players for Grant's contract.
Yeah, and you were going to have to take back probably multiple players if you traded Ayton. And then you just have a roster spot issue.
Yep. Yeah, and the point you were making before I came on was exactly the reason why the Blazers ended up cutting him instead of trading him. They were offered things for Deandre Ayton. All of them involved getting back a worse contract or having it let's say it was to the Lakers and you got 2 expirings, but one of the contracts coming back would be a Jared Vanderbilt who has several years left on his contract. So the Blazers didn't want in any trade of him to have that money on the books, which probably, in my mind, signifies that they're just going to eat that contract for 1 year. But I don't know.
Yeah.
And he said it again, so I finally found it, and then he said it again. My guy Gregory Dundon, dude, this guy will.
Why are you focusing on him?
Well, because this is
a 1,000
thing,
people watching.
This is the thing when people come at us, right? Yeah. They're always like, "You'll see," right? Last year. Cronin will get into the cap. Why are we even talking about it? It's just he's going to do it easy, and then he makes a trade where he goes up 2 firsts and 2 seconds, and it gets no value for Brogdon. But everyone's like, "See, he got out of the tax." Well, yeah, he did, but he had to he got less value than he could have just traded for and been under the tax to begin with. But anyways,
yeah.
So he says, like I said, draft night, and everyone is freaking out. About having 5 centers. Let's see what happens. And Cronin's doing good, and he does it again, that kind of stuff. And
he just cut a player that's gonna have $35 million in dead money. He can always cut a player. Nobody has ever denied that he is capable of cutting a player. The thing is it's not really much of a plan if it's just all this is just you cut DA. Okay, cool. Should have tried to find a way to trade him well before this. I was a big proponent. Ayton's spent 2 seasons here, right? his first trade deadline, after spending half a season here, I was a big proponent of just trading Ayton for like anything you could get, even if it was an expiring, because it's like he's not part of the future. He's not part of the future, and it was like he's never going to help this team contend for a championship. And the writing was on the wall, I think, from like after the first 10 or 15 games Ayton played as a Blazer, where it became obvious, like, yeah, no, the Blazers aren't going to help him turn into a star and prove why he was the number one overall pick. So it's like, yeah, but people thought it was crazy. People thought that logic was crazy, and now here we are, 2 years later, and we're celebrating the fact that he just simply got bought out as, like, Cronin's plan.
Dude, DeAndre averages like 15 and 10, and this dude is like saying that Cronin did such a good job having to release him and getting nothing for him. Like, he would literally say anything Cronin does is good. They're like, having 5 centers having to eat $37 million is not good. Like, that's not, and having that count against the cap, that's not good cap management. So, like, you can say at least he found a way to focus on the young guys or whatever, but it's not like he solved all their problems and this is why he drafted a center, because he knew he had this up his sleeve or whatever. Like, he literally had to cut a 37 million 15 and 10 guy who a lot of people thought was part of our success last year because he mismanaged the roster and our cap. So I don't know, man.
It's whatever.
Yeah.
It's whatever. It's whatever. It's like we're not gonna do a whole back and forth here. Like, you can respond to him in chat, but
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if you got questions in chat, we'll answer them. I just think the Blazers need to find a way to clear up a full mid-level exception and to be in the running for a guy like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. You might as well try. Although, with the way free agency goes, like, he might already know where he's headed. And the Blazers might already know if they have a full mid-level exception or not. So, like, we hear about deals and we analyze things in real time, but they probably know things ahead of time. Like, who knows how long the Blazers knew they were going to do this for. They might have known when they drafted Young Hansen that they were going to do this, and that was part of the reason why they drafted a center. So, that's the thing is these front offices don't operate in real time like we see things. Like, they operate in advance. So who knows what other dominoes are falling, but the Blazers have drafted a player, they've traded down in the draft, they've traded a player for a player, and they have a massive buyout that they've done. So they're just, Cronin is checking off every box. It's funny that this has like been the most aggressive offseason in terms of making moves that he's pretty much ever had, if you don't count the Dame trade that he was forced to do. That wasn't his plan, right? It's like there's so many off seasons where it's just a trade and a draft pick and that's it. They draft Sharp, they trade for Grant, and that's it. They draft Clingan, they trade for Denny, and that's it. The Dame year, they didn't even make a trade that year. They just drafted Scoot, drafted Chris Murray, drafted Repair, and like that's all they were gonna do. Re-sign Grant. That's all they were gonna do until Dame demanded the trade, which I think was kind of part of the plan. But so. Offseason number four, he's done more, at least before September, than he has in any offseason. Pretty much. It's not saying a whole lot because he hadn't done a whole lot before, but I would love just to see him follow this up with a cohesive plan to put together both a competitive roster next season and also continue to set this team up for the future, continue to go all in on the young core and all in on the defensive identity.
I do like that. Maybe it's just not talk this time that they believe in Young that much. So,
What'd you say? I don't understand what you're saying.
Like them cutting Ayton right now, to me, signifies that maybe it wasn't just talk that they believe in Young, because we've heard that before.
Yeah.
Like, he's ready to play right away and all this kind of stuff. He's not your average 19-year-old. All this kind of stuff. So maybe they actually mean it about this one.
They absolutely believe in him.
Yeah.
Just, it's like, how soon do they believe he's ready to play minutes, especially if they're trying to be good next year. But
Yeah.
I think next year the plan is you're going to have to get him acclimated. You go into next season and Robert Williams is the backup center. I would now be very surprised if they traded Robert Williams III. Robert Williams III contributes to the defensive identity as well. You got Clingan, Tamani, Denny, Drew Holiday, Robert Williams III. Maybe whoever you sign with an MLE, that's like a good defender, but a more reliable three-point shooter than Matisse Thybulle. You probably have Matisse Thybulle as kind of like a fringe rotation guy that you can play if you want some extra like passing lane defense, try and force turnovers, whatever. Scoot, I hope that he can take another step defensively and be a legitimately good defender next year. That's a really good defensive core. And yeah, it's going to be fun to watch this team lock up other teams next year. People want us to talk about the offense, though. I mean, the thing is I don't think Ayton really helped their offense. The Blazers had an identical offensive rating with Donovan Clingan on the floor, and I think with his improvement going into year 2, I think there's no offensive fall off from going from Ayton to Clingan. I think Hansen Yang, I'm more worried about his defense right away, actually, than his offense. Like, I think he'll be able to do a few things offensively as a rookie. I just don't think, defensively, the foot speed and the level of play, like, it's going to take some time to adjust to. So I think there might be some struggles there. But offensively, like, in terms of who steps up, I mean, it's kind of committee. They need a shooter. But you got Denny. You hope that he can become the number 1. You got Scoot. You hope he takes a jump into year 3. You hope Sharp takes a jump into year 4 offensively. And, hopefully Tamani can be like your 4th offensive option. He hit cutters, make the right pass, knock down threes, attack closeouts, right? And then you have Clingan as just your play finisher. Drew can provide you some solid ball handling and all-around offense to complement that. And then, you got Grant or whoever they trade Grant for. Maybe it's Rui. Like, you got that offensive option off the bench. And then if you sign a 3-and-D shooter to an MLE, like, you got some offense. I think the Blazers would just need to be a team that moves the ball and actually legitimately gets out in transition at like a top 5 to 10 pace in the league, not an average pace like they've been at best under Chauncey Billups. So I think with that roster, it really fall on the coaching staff. Thankfully, Chauncey has brought in new assistant coaches. I think Tiago Splitter is going to be great for both Clingan and Young Hansen. And it basically just comes down to, like, can you get an average offense out of that unit? Because they should be borderline top 5 defensively. If you can get an average offense and a borderline top 5 defense, you can be in the mix for, like, a 7 or 8 seed in the West. In the East, you could be in the mix for home court advantage. It's just tough that the West is much, much better than the East. But you could at least win games where maybe the other team's making shots and maybe you have just enough to keep up. And then you can win games on the back of your defense.
Yeah, and the most important thing for me on offense without Deandre Ayton, and this was evident when he missed the last few months of the season with that injury. So we have guys like Scoot and Denny in particular, and to an extent, I guess Sharp could fill this as well. But those guys are better off driving down the middle of the paint and kicking out or taking it to the basket. In a perfect world, they did better when the lane was opened up. When you have a center that stands around the free throw line at all times, leaving his defender right in the middle of the paint at all times, and it never really clears or leaves that area, outside of, an occasional time where he rolls and gets to the hoop. But it wasn't enough to free that up. But once Clingan started playing more and Ayton started playing or like missing games and stuff, it really opened up the middle for Denny in particular. And I believe Scoot will eventually find that freedom in the middle of the paint because I think at his best, he's going to be the type of guard. If he's going to have that huge breakout, it'll be just impossible to contain and keep out of the paint. And then he's kicking out to shooters or dropping it off to cutters. And then, as Lauren points out in chat, he also couldn't screen very well or didn't set the best screens, Ayton that is. And so that also doesn't free anyone up. And that's why a lot of our offensive metrics weren't as good. Like especially at the beginning of the season, they were terrible. When we had no spacing, Denny was struggling to find his way. Anthony was struggling to get open shots and hit a shot to save his life. And I think a big part of that was the way Ayton clogs the middle of the offense. And so he can score, he could shoot, all that kind of stuff. But it does really limit what you can do if you're not screening players open and you're always in the way of people who are trying to penetrate into the lane.
Yep.
Mr. F is saying that ESPN is reporting that Ayton came to us about that.
Yeah, so that's what's in the Shams article. That's what I was about to say. So let me just quote it here. Shout out to Trevor for the screenshot. The article, I don't know if this was like recently updated. I never actually read the Shams article. Deandre Ayton is finalizing a contract buyout with the Portland Trailblazers to become a free agent, sources told ESPN on Sunday. Ayton, who turns 27 next month, had $35.6 million left on his contract, which was set to expire next summer. Ayton and his representatives approached the Blazers about a buyout, and Ayton wanting to play in a winning situation, sources said. So either this is what you said, and it's a mutually beneficial thing, and then at that point, like, okay, whatever, or it's just this dude, like, just one last reason to dislike this guy.
He's going to end up in LA, whether there's the Jeremy Grant trade or not, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But, like...
he does make more sense than, like, Brook Lopez.
Yeah, but, like, what? This dude cannot create a winning situation. He didn't want to be in Phoenix, which was more of a winning situation, was excited about coming to Portland, and then when he couldn't impact winning, then he wants out. Like, he's a guy that he can't create his own shots. He's not really somebody that's responsible for the, like, success of a team. He's somebody that, like, needs to benefit off of it, if that makes sense. Like, he doesn't help create that environment. He just can be, like, in that environment. Which, for a max player, is not how you want to talk about him, right? So, yeah.
Dude. See, this is why Ayton pisses me off. Okay, what? The Portland's like an up and coming team. Like we're competing for the playoffs now. Like right? Like so to say you want to go to a winning situation? No, you just know that you're not good enough. Like, and you're gonna get outplayed by a freaking 20-year-old rookie from China, and you saw the writing on the wall. What happened to being so excited about them drafting a center last year? Why weren't you excited about it again this year?
Yeah, like so was it like they drafted another center and he was like, okay, I want out, or was it? I really wonder what is behind this, man, because
dude, for people saying like this means like this wasn't part of Cronin's master plan. I said that this wasn't Cronin's plan. This is Ayton's agent's plan to get him to LA. And if part of that, the Blazers could have still not bought him out. Like, like why would they could have still not done that? So like this doesn't mean that that's not like okay. If we're gonna let you go to LA for nothing and get nothing for you, then this. It could still be part of the plan. It doesn't matter who's who approached who. It actually makes more sense that his agent crafted the whole thing.
I almost wonder if like the Chauncey comments about him being like penciled in as a starter was them trying to keep him happy enough to not ask out.
Probably.
Like, but that's the thing is this is the stuff you have to wonder with Ayton. I'm so happy to not have to worry about coddling this dude anymore, or the organization coddling this dude anymore. It's a breath of fresh air to not have him on this basketball team. Because he's the type of guy that kind of needs to get coddled and is going to be up and down, and you never know what Deandre Ayton you're going to get any given day. Some days he'll have a great attitude and play hard, and some days he hates the world and is not going to give you any effort, and you know what I mean? And he talks about like the team and being a team player, but I don't think that's really his attitude deep down. Like, if they asked him to come off the bench and still play like 26 minutes a game, he would not be happy with that. So yeah, like that wouldn't be a surprise if he was just like, nope, I'm done here. Like, team's not good enough. I want to go win. When it's like he's not contributing to building the winner here, and we took a step forward last year anyway, and are set to take hopefully another step forward. So yeah, he can go to the Lakers. I can hate him as a Laker. Like, I can freely hate him again, and I'm excited about that. I never liked him before the Blazer got him, and I just had that feeling, even though when the Blazers got him, it was like, maybe they can get something out of him. Maybe they can turn him into a star. I still always had that feeling deep down, like, this is not going to last. This is not going to be... He's never going to win a playoff game in a Blazer uniform. Like, I always had that feeling and really, really believed in that feeling. And look at where we're at 2 years later. So just happy he's gone. Kind of knew it wasn't really going to pan out. And also, let me just put something on the screen. Okay, let me just put this graphic that I found on Twitter on the screen, and it will show you everything you need to know about Deandre Ayton. Just give me a second.
While you're doing that,
yeah.
So, no, for the record, no matter what his buyout is, his full contract counts against. So it could, if we bought him out for $30 million, it still counts $37 million against our cap.
You sure?
Yes. Yeah, the buyout counts the full amount. It's just what we pay him. Like, the Blazers only have to pay him 30 instead of 37. Now, there could be, like, if he signed for a full mid-level exception with the Lakers or something, then it would offset a few $1 million, but...
Yeah, I just read somewhere, like, the remaining salary owed after the amount given up in the buyout stays on the original team's cap is dead money. I read that, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I said.
The remaining salary after the amount given up in the buyout stays as dead money. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. The buyout, that's saying that
the remaining salary after the amount given up in the buyout.
Like, the remaining salary is just his remaining salary. They're just saying.
Well, the original salary would be what he's making. It says the remaining salary after the amount given up in the buyout. I don't know. Ask Bobby Marks. Ask Bobby Marks. When in doubt,
you're reading off exactly what I just said. I don't see why you think that's different.
You're saying like the $37 million, the remaining salary after the amount given up in the buyout. So like Ayton gives up money in the buyout, and then the remaining salary is what's owed.
No, the remaining salary is what his salary counts against the cap. The remaining salary still goes against the cap. Yeah,
the remaining salary after whatever he gives up in the buyout. So, yeah.
Yeah, it stays in it.
So, like, if he gives up $2 million, then it'd be $35 million remaining against that money.
No, it's saying that, like, the difference is still owed against the cap.
Okay, I don't think that's what it's saying, but we can ask Bobby Marks. When in doubt, ask Bobby Marks.
Rip Lamarcus says, "Oh, you sound exactly like the Suns fans when they dumped him on us." Yeah, because we didn't want him then either. We sounded like the Suns fans when we got him.
Yeah. Yeah. We were never really on board. Like, it was worth taking a chance. You had to take some money back in the Dame trade. And they got Tamani Kamara. That is the saving grace of that whole trade. You got Tamani Kamara. You took on Ayton. You dealt with Ayton to get Tamani Kamara. And now Tamani Kamara is a key part of the Blazers' core long term. So yeah, I forgot what I was. Oh no, the image. Oh, here. Shout out to whoever on Twitter posted this. Guess what the asterisk is? Okay, this is career, DPM, progression. This is basically just an advanced analytic that like values a player. Okay, like this is basically, advanced stats are always going to have noise, but this is Deandre Ayton's like production over the course of his career. And I'll shout out the first person to guess what that asterisk is. Don't spoil it, Eric, because I'm sure you probably know.
Well, I have a guess, but I don't know for sure.
I'll let you guess if I see somebody. I see some comments in chat. Do you know what it is?
I'm guessing since he thought the definition of being a successful NBA player was getting a second contract and signing that max contract. So I'm guessing that is when he signed with the Pacers and was matched by the Suns and got paid.
Yep. Shout out to Chris S. Shout out to Connor. Shout out to Bry the Kid. Shout out to anyone else in chat. I missed that guessed this correctly. But yes, this is when Ayton got his max contract. He played well. He got his max contract. He said he had nothing left to prove because he's a max player and will continue to be one, and his production has fallen off a cliff. And he's made comments that what he cares most about is the amount of money he's getting paid. And then he asks out of a winning situation in Phoenix to come to a worse team in Portland, and it's like,
he's going to dominate.
He's going to dominate, and he's going to have basically the ability to become a star, I think was his mindset, and he just was not skilled enough. Was not skilled enough to do that. And at this point, he realizes that, and going into a contract year, what's going to help Deandre Ayton get the best contract next offseason when he's a free agent again? It's probably going to be playing next to Luka Doncic and LeBron James, in them making him look good, just like CP3 and Booker made him look good. And I think he and his representation know that. And I think that's why they approached Portland about this buyout. Because for Deandre Ayton, it was never about growing with a young team, sticking through it to the end, helping develop a winning culture, helping develop this team, being a part of this team rebooting itself. It was never about that for Deandre Ayton. It was never about that. It was never about team. He's not somebody that's seemingly about team. And I've tried to say that nicely over the past couple of years, but you can best believe if he felt like forcing a buyout would help him get more money next offseason that he would do it. So this is where we're at. Now, it's a good thing for the Blazers, in my opinion, so it's whatever. But shout out to Truth Speak 503. What's up? What's up, man? It says, with a $2 donation, says, I'm so glad that Quitter is off my favorite team. Yeah, our guy Damani, man, he said he was boycotting until the team was for sale, and the team's for sale now, and he can't stand Ayton. Ayton's gone now. Man, things are turning around, Eric. We love it. We love it. You're muted, by the way. If you were saying anything.
What's up, Damani?
And then we got go ahead.
No, you can read off the next.
$50 bomb from Andrew Bohm. Is that how you say your last name? Bohm Bomb. Thank you for the donation. Says, long overdue. Big thanks for all you do. Mock off season tells us The Blazers could have at least gotten 2 first-rounders for Ayton, idiots. Thanks for all the content, fellas. Thank you, Andrew. Who are you in the Discord, by the way? I want to know. But yeah, the mock off season is always wild. Always some wild stuff. But thank you so much for the $50 donation. Greatly appreciate it. What's up?
What do you mean, who is he in the Discord?
Does he post in the Discord? Is he under a different name? Yeah, that's what I thought. Trevin says Milwaukee. Yeah, that's a. I think that's a Bobo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Bobo. Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking. The A and then the BO on the last name. That's what I was thinking. We'll see what happens tomorrow, man. But really, really, really excited for the next iteration of the Portland Trail Blazers. I'm really excited about this. Is there any other angle you want to touch upon here with Ayton? Is there anything else we need to do to celebrate him and send him on his merry way?
I do. Part of me wonders. Like, I don't think he's a winning player, so don't misconstrue this. But for the Blazers this particular year, I do think not having him might make it a little harder to make the playoffs if he was like in a reduced role off the bench.
No, a reduced role off the bench, he would probably pull a Malik Beasley.
Yeah, maybe.
You'd probably tank. He'd probably bet against the Blazers. If you guys don't know the Malik Beasley stuff, he is being investigated for betting on NBA games. He might have pulled a Jonte Porter. I don't understand why NBA players do that. But then there's clips of him with Milwaukee that are very, very fishy. Very, very fishy. But yeah. He was never going to accept that role.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, first of all, I don't think Dwop is like playing minutes on a contending team.
I don't know.
As the backup center. Robert Williams played 26 games in 2 years with the Blazers. So it's putting a lot on a rookie who doesn't even speak the language very much to have a good year. Now, it's exciting that we're going to give him that opportunity, most likely, assuming we don't get another somehow. But so that is exciting. Like, if we're going to draft him at 16, let's play the freaking guy, right?
Yeah.
let's see if he is the next Jokic, whatever. But it is tough to imagine a rookie coming over here and playing for the first time being better than DA would have been in that role. But I'm hoping he is. Like, I'm not saying that he can't be. I'm just hoping that he's not, or that Young is good enough to make us be like, yeah, good thing we don't have Ayton anymore.
Yeah. Shout to Truth Speak, $2 donation. Says, let's just forget Ayton. Ever wore crimson, ever. No, I don't want to forget. I want people to remember, actually. Remember what it looked like for a guy to make a max contract and then jog back slower than myself or Eric or you could run back on defense. Yeah, let's not do that again. There's a lot of people that thought we could fix Ayton. Eric, can we finally accept that once a player has played like 4 or 5 seasons in the league and proven what he is, let's stop thinking the Blazers can fix them. We did it with Cam Reddish. We did it with Mario Hezonja. We did it with Deandre Ayton. Guess what? We never fixed any of them. because they had already proven what they were. And I went into acquiring all three of those guys trying to tell people, like, no, we're not just going to magically fix these guys. And everybody called me negative. Everybody said, Tori, you know what? You just find a way to be mad about anything or be negative about anything, which is funny because this is a positive stream. You just find a way to be negative about anything. But it's like, what? At the end of the day, what happened? Mario Hezonja was a train wreck. Cam Reddish was completely meaningless. Like, it's hard to even remember any of his games as a Blazer when people were saying he has potential and we can fix him. Deandre Ayton, we bought him out off of a max contract 2 years after getting him. When we got him, there's a lot of narratives, and a lot of people buying into the hype that we can finally turn him into a star. We can prove why he was the number 1 overall pick. There was even a particular radio host that was pushing that narrative to prop up Joe Cronin and his acquisition of Deandre Ayton. But if you go back and you look at the stream, the Dame trade reaction stream that I had, on that stream, I was more excited about getting Tamani Kamara.
Yeah, me too.
Go back and watch that stream. Go back and watch that stream. So that's the thing, man. Like, I'm not going to sit here and just drink the Kool-Aid on any player just because I want to think that they're going to magically work out perfectly in Portland. I'm never going to do that because more often than not, players that have played 3-4 years in the league and have some deficiencies that aren't improving, it's not just going to magically fix itself once they get to Portland. That has not been the case. There are some late bloomers, but Hezonja, Reddish, Ayton, like these types of guys never really fix themselves. I mean, people even said that about Stauskas, and then Stauskas had a good first game, and it was like, see, he was the 8th pick for a reason. And then we traded him at the deadline. So, yeah, I'm just over, like, fixing these types of players.
We have some breaking Blazer news. Sean Haken just tweeted out, thanks everyone in chat for bringing it up. Jabari Walker not extended a qualifying offer. He is an unrestricted free agent.
Interesting.
This comes after the Blazers, between the last stream and now, did pick up Brian Ruper's contract for next year. So chose Ruper over Jabari Walker.
So how many roster spots do they have, not counting Jabari now?
I believe they had 14 prior to Ayton, not including Jabari. So I think they're down to 13 now.
This I think feels like there's another move to come and they need roster spots. Or they want to clear up space for a full mid-level exception, don't want to be committing a qualifying offer to Jabari on like a 15th roster spot in case they need the extra room. This
Blazer Bosses, did we pick up Chris Murray? He was already under contract.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked.
I mean, it could just be like the Trendon Watford thing where we just moving on.
I wouldn't be shocked if they tried to include like Chris Murray in a trade.
Yeah. We were in favor of taking some chances on different guys at the end of our bench. I'm fine with them keeping Repair for one more year to see if he can develop after given one more season. But I'm kind of fine with them reworking the 10th through 15th guys, the Jabari Walkers, the Delano Band types, like just bringing some new maybe diamonds in the rough, or just some guys who could be a little bit more steady in those positions.
Yep. So something that I heard last offseason, which didn't end up being true, but I heard that last offseason that it was unlikely that Jabari Walker would be back with the Blazers. Now, I have no idea why, and that didn't end up being true, but it was something legitimate enough to trust, and I just don't know how the Blazers felt about him going into last year. He kind of improved his shot, but it was on too small of a volume to really bank upon him being a legitimate shooter last year. he didn't really get enough opportunity. He, of course, had that huge three-point shooting game in Boston. He does some little things, but he's kind of an unathletic, undersized power forward that was supposed to be a shooter coming into the league, but didn't end up becoming one. And the Blazers aren't really going to lose anything by not extending the qualifying offer to him. Of course, they could still re-sign him, and maybe he doesn't have enough interest, and maybe this is just for flexibility purposes, and if the Blazers have the roster spot at the end of the season and the money below the tax, maybe they do bring him back. But I would bet that Jabari Walker is not going to be in a Blazer uniform next season. He can still sign a two-way somewhere, so maybe that happens. I do feel like a team could give him a minimum contract, but I just feel like you're seeing roster spot issues across the league, and every year there's just guys that are solid, maybe even fringe rotation players on an okay team that end up being casualties of teams that need roster spots and no other teams pick them up. I feel like Jabari Walker could be that player.
And for the record, the Blazers still could re-sign him. They retain bird rights for him and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. So let me know your thoughts in the live chat about Jabari Walker, about the Blazers not extending his qualifying offer. Now, what this means, I'll explain it for those of you who are confused by this. You extend a qualifying offer to a player to make him a restricted free agent. A restricted free agent means that if any team offers him a contract, the Blazers have the right to match that contract and keep that player on that contract. But you have to extend the qualifying offer to make them a restricted free agent. If you don't extend the qualifying offer, then that player becomes an unrestricted free agent and can sign with any team, and the Blazers don't have the right to match that contract. So if they really wanted to keep Jabari Walker, they would have extended a qualifying offer to him, which would basically give them control of keeping him, because any contract he gets, the Blazers can just match and keep him on the roster on that contract. Now, the qualifying offer is a little bit more than a minimum, and Jabari Walker would have the ability to accept that at any time. And essentially, if the Blazers are trying to work things out financially to stay below the tax, maybe open up a full mid-level exception, having that, I think it'd be like a $2.3, $2.4 million qualifying offer, maybe $2.5 million qualifying offer committed to Jabari Walker would eat into that space that they're potentially trying to create. Also, with 13 players on the roster, if they are about to make a trade where maybe they trade Jeremy Grant out for 2 or 3 players, then they would have to, they'd have to have the roster spots anyway. You can only have 15 players on a team. So I think this is probably a combination of the Blazers don't really care about bringing Jabari Walker back, and or they need the flexibility money-wise and roster spot-wise. You're muted.
Caden Dune in chat is claiming he has a source that says the Blazers are signing Jake LaRavia for you, Tori, tomorrow.
So the comment in chat, Mike Schmitz loved Jake LaRavia and had him as a lottery talent in the 2022 draft, was his number 1 target in free agency. Yeah, he might get less than the full mid-level exception. I liked LaRavia in that draft as like a 6'7", 6'8" guy with some passing feel, and he really progressed as a passer last year for Memphis. They just declined his 4th-year team option, which I thought was kind of a silly mistake. He kind of, I don't want to say he broke out last year, but he started proving dividends on that pick and really started lighting it up from 3. So like he's just kind of a uniquely skilled, not overly athletic by any means, but he can move, like he's somewhat agile, can shoot the 3, can pass. Decent rebounder for a forward, for like a guy that swings between the 3 and the 4. 4 rebounds per game last year in only 20 minutes. So defensively, he's kind of like a smart defender, but he's not like the greatest lateral mover. So I think maybe he wouldn't necessarily be like a problem on this team, given that he'd probably be one of the worst defenders in the lineup. Like I don't think he'd be I don't know. I'd need to watch more defensive tape on him, but coming into the league, it was kind of just like, yeah, he'll be a smart defender, a decent team defender, won't lock up anybody on the ball by any means, but like won't cause problems defensively. So if you get a forward that can pass, handle the ball a little bit, shoot, 37 to 40% from three, and then is okay enough defensively to not cause problems on a team loaded with defenders that needs shooting, his fit could definitely make some sense.
Just to be clear, the Blazers do not have currently, could not offer the full mid-level exception.
They couldn't offer all of the full mid-level exception. They could offer part of the full mid-level exception and stay under the tax.
It'll just be up to how big of a contract offer he gets. So we'll see.
The Blazers have posted, thank you for everything, DA. Grateful for your time in Rip City graphic. One of the comments under it, enjoy your air mattress in LA. Enjoy your air mattress in LA. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, to really sum up the Ayton thing, it's just the Blazers are on their way to committing to the young core and kind of building through this young core. They got another pick by trading down for Young. If they can fill that backup like small forward role with a shooter in free agency, then I'm more okay with the Young pick, because that was a role I thought the Blazers should look to fill through the draft with maybe somebody with some upside. But yeah, going forward, I think that's the biggest need. You got to find some shooting going into next year. You got to try and become a decent three-point shooting team. You hope that Sharp can improve there. You hope that Scoot continues to improve there. Maybe Donovan continues to improve there. I don't know. But like the shooting doesn't look particularly bad if you get a bench small forward shooter. Like Drew is reliable for like 37% on okay volume. Not as much volume as Anthony Simons, but like good enough volume. So I think if this team can shoot and then be the elite defensive team that they could be, then you could see this team be above 500 next year. Now, that might not be good enough even for a 10 seed in the West, so I'm not going to make any bold predictions about where they will rank, but I think that's kind of like the most minimal goal, is to be an above 500 team to win more games than you lose. Why is chat whiling on each other? Why is chat going off on each other? Every big stream, man, we get some wild stuff in chat. Would Kennard even come here? If we paid him, yeah, probably. We'll take your questions, and then maybe we'll preview kind of what we expect tomorrow in day one of free agency, and that'll be tonight's stream.
You want to briefly run down all the stuff that happened today?
Yeah, so Colin Sexton gets, I talked about it in the intro, Colin Sexton gets traded with a second-round pick to Charlotte straight up for Yusuf Nurkic. If he's getting traded like as negative value, then I feel like that says something about Anthony Simons' trade value. You know what I mean? Like, it made me feel a little bit better.
They're relatable.
Why not?
I think Sexton has, I don't know. He has kind of a reputation of, I don't know. But I mean, we know that guards don't have that much value scoring.
Yeah. I mean,
because there's so many of them. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, per 36 last year, he's 24 points, 5.5 assists, 40% from three, true shooting of 59%.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And then defensively, he's probably a little better than Ant. Like, I think he's very comparable to Ant. Both guys going into the final year of their contract. Sexton a little bit cheaper, like $8 million cheaper. So just the fact that he had to have a second attached to him just to get back Yusuf Nurkic's expiring contract was wild to me. And I think if that says anything about the Anthony Simons trade value on the market, then I think if you're looking to trade, Anthony Simons for value, I think maybe trading him for Drew, and maybe Drew bounces back a little bit offensively next season, then flipping Drew might be the best path to getting value. I also think just for the defensive identity the Blazers are trying to build and the mentorship, I like Drew more for the young guards than Ant. So it did make me feel a little bit better about that trade. The contract's still super questionable, but I'm okay with the Blazers like trying to be good next year if they're just like, we are going to lock teams up. We are going to try and be a top 5 defense in the league, and we're still going to commit to our young players in the process. I am completely okay with that, and I'm behind that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the Blazers might have had a chance to get a high pick and be good.
What do you mean?
Well, Joe Dumars came out and said that he started calling teams at pick 9 to get Derek Queen.
Yeah.
So the Blazers were presented with one of those rare situations where you can be good yourself, but also have a lottery ticket to potentially get a superstar added to the roster. It doesn't matter how well you play, so you could go for the playoffs and still have that asset. But yeah.
I don't agree with the valuation of Young Hansen over the 2026 Milwaukee New Orleans unprotected first. I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Anybody that says like they value Young Hansen over that pick like would not have said so a week ago.
Or 3 days ago, yeah.
Or, before the Blazers drafted him. So it's kind of just like we're being biased for our favorite team because they drafted this young player. And then I watched some highlights and he looked good on highlights. And I want to be a fan of him. So I'm going to say he's better than the best New Orleans Milwaukee pick next year. Like, let's be real. That's what that is. That's just, hometown fans drinking the Kool-Aid, which happens with a lot of teams' fan bases with their young players.
Yeah. But if you want to be optimistic,
but like if we're keeping it real, it's definitely would not have said that a week ago. I did a Twitter poll and it was like only 58% of people would rather have the best pick next year between New Orleans and Milwaukee, and both those teams could easily be lottery teams. The Bucks don't have Dame. If Giannis misses any time, they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. The Pelicans, we just saw them be one of the worst teams in the league, right? If both of them are lottery teams, like you just basically you add their odds together, moving up into the top 4 because you get the best of the two. So that is definitely a better asset. I don't agree with the valuation of Young over that, but at the end of the day, it's like either he's going to be a phenomenal and the Blazers front office is going to look good and the Blazers might be in good shape with him if he pans out to his fullest ability, or the Blazers are going to go down swinging with him and he doesn't pan out and then it just looks really bad. Like it's basically what it's going to come down to. So I've vented about it a lot on Twitter last night. At this point, it's kind of just like, all right, well, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see on how good Young Hansen can become.
Damani with another $2 donation. Y'all think we could have gotten Young in the second round? No, I don't.
At this point, I don't believe that. Yeah. Which also makes the pick a little bit more palatable because it sounds like Minnesota is 17 and then Brooklyn at 19 or 22. They have a Asian owner that like took Jackie, however you say his name. I forgot how to say his name. He was on our summer league roster. They took him from us mid-season. Apparently, Brooklyn was eyeing him at 19 or 22. So,
yeah, the question would have been, what would have taken for us to move up from 23 to 16? Had we done that trade instead, would that have been possible to get back up to 16?
Tori, when is the question, do we make the same mistake and hold on to them like we did Grant? What do you mean with who? The young players? They're on cheap contracts. I don't really understand the question. Either way, Cronin and co. are out with new ownership. Might as well go out swinging. I don't really believe that. I feel like they got their extensions solely because they were about to sell the team and wanted to lock them in just like as a thank you.
Whatever. I'm just going to say it. I think anyone pushing that narrative that Joe and Chauncey are trying to save their jobs is a dumbass because their contracts are guaranteed. If they didn't sign those extensions, then absolutely you could make that case. They just signed extensions. Why do they care They have guaranteed money. So like if a new owner comes in and fires them, they have that contract, they get paid out. So like,
yeah, but I mean, maybe they just want to keep their jobs, even though
well, yes.
It doesn't make a difference for getting paid. Like,
but you think like because they drafted young, they're gonna frickin' keep their job because of that. Like, I mean, I don't see why that was like would be the determining factor.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think they're going down swinging with their guy. Yeah, is the future isn't guaranteed. So
I mean, if he is like awesome, yeah, that helps. But like, it's just as likely that pick would cost them their job than not cost them their job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I will say this, like, everybody loves Mike Schmitz. I loved Draft Express, so I'm a Mike Schmitz fan, but he hasn't really, like, proven yet as a member of an NBA front office. Like, their scouting department hasn't proven themselves yet, and this pick, they either will or it will go down as one of the worst picks in Blazer history, maybe, considering you potentially passed over the New Orleans-Milwaukee pick next year. So it's either going to be really good or really bad. Like, it's a perfect litmus test, so I'm behind that. You know, like, they messed up with the Chris Murray pick. They took Ryan Repairer at 43, which is, like, fine. You know, guys don't pan out there all that often, but you did take him over Tamani, and you didn't know Tamani was going to become available in that trade, so, like, that's kind of a mistake. And, you know, every other pick's been a top 7 pick. It's not like Scoot's really, like, panned out yet, given his massive expectations with the 3rd overall pick. Like, Sharp, you know, it's still early for those guys, is what I'm trying to say. So, like, they haven't proven themselves yet.
Yeah.
So I'm not just going to, like, blindly trust every pick they make. Even the best in the world will miss in terms of drafting players and drafting prospects. You see NBA teams do that all the time. Like, even the Thunder missed with Pokuševski, and seems like they missed with Ousmane Dieng, and, you know, we'll see what happens with Thomas Sorber. But yeah, at the end of the day, like, it's they still have to prove themselves, I think. So this pick will be that.
All right, Undead Beavis with a $5 donation. How much did the addition of a large Chinese fan base being an alluring factor to a new owner have to play into this?
I just don't think he's, like, gonna make the franchise worth, like, $500 million more or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, how much value is it really at the end of the day for a team that's gonna get sold for, like, $4 billion?
It's very minimal. Yeah. I think they just really like this guy.
Yeah.
They weren't thinking of other stuff in my mind. I don't think it had anything to do with that part of it.
Yep.
Yeah. I just think they like it. Like that, just like I was saying with them trying to keep their jobs. I don't think it was about that. I think they just really wanted it. Like, it's a guy they scouted. That's the other thing. Can I please stop hearing that Mike Schmitz discovered this dude 2 years ago? He's been on radars for more than that. Like, if you're an NBA scout or an assistant GM or a GM, you should have been scouting him for a year since he was like 15 years old and playing professional. Like, this idea that like the Blazers like freaking found him and like were the only ones that knew about him or something last year and would have drafted him, but he went back and now all these other teams were interested in stuff. No, dude, like, come on. Like, why do people fall for that crap?
I was watching tape on him a year and a half ago.
Like
Rafael Barlow brought him up in a Locked On NBA Big Board podcast like a year and a half ago, and I started watching film on him.
Yeah, because we all thought he was going to come out into the draft last year, and he didn't. But like, he was on radars like a year plus before that as being like a huge, tall China person from China. So like, I don't. the Blazers really liked him 2 years ago, that's great. Like they should have been scouting him for 2 years, or if not longer. Like they should be scouting all these guys. There shouldn't, like, how hard is it to not, or to like scout a bunch of people if that's your one and only job, right?
Yeah, true. Shout out to Elias with the $2 donation, says, let's do a tankathon. All right, we'll do a tankathon. Oh, I don't even have the scene set up and Eric's gone, so never mind. Let me see here.
No, I'm here. It's just not in that scene.
It's not in that scene, yeah. It says Tankathon, and it wasn't even the Tankathon overlay or anything, so I don't know what it was. So let me... I'll quickly set up a little window capture. We'll do a Tankathon, because we got new Tankathon set up. Don't go to the website. I'll show you where they have the Blazers projected. I will show you. And we can give our thoughts on the order. I need to find a way to make my computer faster, man.
Yeah, as DJ Vega points out, now if Young ends up being really good, like maybe that helps viewership a little bit, but I don't think that was the reason why they picked him.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, let's see here.
We're 5th on the site, people are saying.
Yep. We are 5th, Eric. We are 5th. We are the second worst team in the West. Look at this Atlanta pick from New Orleans. Best in New Orleans and Milwaukee. Yeah, interesting. All right, first.
What is that projected to be?
9th.
9th.
Milwaukee's 13th. First Tankathon sim of the season. Can we capture the DeBonsa? We need to come up with a Tankathon slogan. Or maybe it's Darren Peterson. I don't know. All right.
Did you see that Bonsa today?
No.
That there's like the under 19.
Yeah.
I don't know what tournament it is, but he was awesome.
Yeah.
He's so freaking good. That's my guy.
Look at Memphis via Phoenix. Moving down a spot. And do we have Portland at 6? No, we got Portland top 4. We got Brooklyn at 6 as our first Tankathon sim of the season assigned to tank again. 5 is Washington. 4 is Chicago. 3 is Utah. 2 is Charlotte. And your Portland Trailblazers get the #1 overall pick on the first Tankathon sim after the 2025 draft. So I guess this is a sign. We got to tank all over again. I mean, I'm kidding, but yeah.
If we had a DeBonsa, though, we're gonna win a
It's
championship.
over. It's over. I don't know. Like, is Darren Peterson? A lot of people were saying is better, man.
Yeah, I'm a DeBonsa guy though.
They're calling Darren Peterson a 6'6" Dame with like defense or something. So like I'll tap in.
He's going to Kansas.
Yeah, he's going to Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, Peterson and Boozer are really freaking good too. They're definitely top 3. I don't know. I'm a
this
huge
draft
DeBonsa
next
guy.
year is insane.
I've been saying for 2 years now that DeBonsa's guaranteed superstar.
Yeah,
but Peterson and Boozer might be too. So,
like 6 to 10 in this draft, I feel like is insane value. Like Kareem Lopez is legit. Yusufu was fun as hell to watch at the Hoop Summit. He's legit. And then, I mean, if you get some of these guys entering, like Isaiah Evans, Yoxel Endeborg, Thomas Houck, Bennett Sturts, your guy Bennett Sturts, Miles Bird, like Pettiford, right? And I think I'm probably forgetting some guys that went back. Phylon.
Boogie Fland.
Like, And then you got other guys. Dame Sar is fun. He could be good. Dash
Say his
Daniels
name
is
right.
Dame Sar. That's
Say
how
it
you
right.
say it.
I don't care how it's supposed to
all
sound.
right,
Say it right.
all right. Dame Sar. We can get our new Dame and butcher his name. Dash Daniels is Dyson Daniels' little brother. He's a late lotto prospect. Nate Amet, I think, will slip down boards. I think he'll slip down boards. But yeah, it's gonna be fun for sure. For sure.
My other guy is Jaden Quaid's.
Yeah, you love
his
Jaden
game.
Queens.
But he was ineligible because he was not old enough. So it was kind of like the Money Bates situation where he was in college but wasn't eligible to come out yet.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're new to the channel, we nerd out on the draft, so you definitely want to make sure that this is your number one spot for Blazers draft coverage. We're going to have the free agency live stream tomorrow, going live between 2 and 3 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to have a Shams feed live on screen, so you don't have to check Twitter. You don't have to worry about that. That should be a lot of fun. We'll have a graphics package for that. I was actually going to finish it before the stream and show it off tonight, but the DA news happened. He's gone. I cannot believe he's gone. I can't believe Simons and Ayton are both gone.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
2 out of 3. One more.
One more to go. It's Jeremy Grant. Yeah. If Jeremy Grant gets traded to the Lakers, man, then this might have been some and DA goes to the Lakers, this might have been some creativity from an agent that Cronin got handed to him. I mean, if you could get like Rui and Kleba back and try and open up a full mid-level exception, and then the only long-term contract you got is Holiday, the Blazers have some flexibility and options. I mean, they could still have like $30 million in cap space with Holiday next offseason in that scenario. So I love that they're committing to Clingan. Maybe their plan was to bring back Ayton, and Ayton said, no, I want to leave. I mean, that's just maybe another reason to not like Deandre Ayton, but I think it's best for the Blazers, so I'm cool with it. The Blazers need to add some shooting, though, so we'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll have you covered with the live stream.
For the record, Fisher's reporting we have the full mid-level exception, but technically that's true because we'd be hard capped at the first apron, so we'd have the full mid-level exception. But as everyone here should know, the Blazers aren't going into the tax, so the tax line is pretty much a hard cap line for us. So like we're not going to the tax to sign someone. So we'd have to stay under that tax line unless we made a trade to get under it. But currently, even though we could technically sign someone to the mid-level exception, we're not going to. So yeah, like Chad says, expect if we sign someone to be like the maximum amount we can, but stay under the tax line, not the luxury, not the apron line, which is 2 different numbers.
Yep. The Steinline reports the Hawks are projected by rival teams as the favorite to acquire Nickeil Alexander-Walker in a sign-and trade. Yeah, that's the thing. If you got like Cleveland back in that the Hawks apparently. Although, like I'm sure Minnesota would want no salary back because they're right up against the second apron, so I don't really know how that would function. But we're currently hard capped at the first apron after the Drew trade. Correct. And the thing is, like, since we're already hard capped at the first apron, like basically, like if we didn't care about the tax, like we have to keep our money under that anyway. Like in the full mid-level exception also hard caps us at the first apron, so we're already hard capped under it. So it just comes down to staying beneath it. But I just don't think they'll be in the tax, so they have a little bit less money to work with in regards to the luxury tax line.
So Hyken's also tweeting. He says, I don't know the full amount of the buyout, but we should have enough to sign someone to the full mid-level exception of $14.1 million and stay under the tax. Just for the record, most of those guys are not very good when it comes to the cap. He's really good at reporting the news and stuff like that, but not much of a cap guy. So,
yeah. I still don't know if it's like if he's bought out for less than his salary, if the buyout amount is what counts towards dead money or the actual salary. I know you're saying salary, but I read that it's the salary, the buyout amount. So would be nice to get some confirmation on that, because if that's true and the Blazers were able to like save $3-4 million in a buyout, then and that applies, then that would be really beneficial. I don't think Ayton would be giving up more money than that, though. So I just wonder if it's like, yeah, they're enough under the apron to use the full mid-level exception, or is it they're enough under the tax to use the full mid-level exception to stay out of the tax? Because that's tax. Yeah. So I mean, they'd have to. I have to crunch the numbers again, but I just, I don't know. We need to just get confirmation on like how the buyouts work with the dead money, because I always thought it was like the buyout amount like minus what he then signs for, but it sounds like they got some weird formulas that to determine this stuff. So like a set off formula, which I've never even heard of. So. We'll see. They've talk
always
about
had the set-off formula. I just don't know if the other part changed to the new CBA or not.
Yeah. Anyway, DA is gone. Hit the like if you're happy DA is gone, or if you're mad he's gone. Hit the like. Hit the like, and we'll have you covered with the live stream tomorrow. If there's a Jeremy trade or something, I don't know if I'll be able to go live before the free agency stream, but of course we cover it as soon as we can. Or if there's another big move, like we'll
also,
cover it as soon as we can.
Also, you heard that here first.
What's up?
If that happens, you heard it here first.
Yeah, we'll see.
Everyone remember that.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I hope it happens. But anyway, thank you guys who donated. Thank you everyone who liked the stream. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. We do post-game live streams all throughout the season, breaking down every Blazer game. Video content as well. We do big live streams for the trade deadline, the lottery, the draft, and free agency. We got our free agency stream tomorrow. Always looking forward to that. Live Twitter feed on screen, so you don't have to check Twitter. We'll have Shams up there, because that's the only feed we really need at this point. But maybe I'll toss in Mark Stein as well, or whoever you guys think. But yeah, make sure you're there tomorrow. Stream going live between 2 and 3 p.m. Pacific time. Free agency starts at 3 p.m. Pacific time. That's when signings will start coming through, and that's always a fun little whirlwind. So with that being said, we are out of here. DA is gone. Simons is gone. We'll see what Joe Cronin has up his sleeve next. And we'll see where Deandre Ayton goes. We'll see if Jeremy Grant is gone as well, and all of Grant, Simons, and Ayton get moved or released this offseason. Looking forward to it, and appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We're out of here. Have a good rest of your Sunday night. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.